Today we undertake a complete synthesis of the architecture of truth. We are not just analyzing a film, we are decoding a psychological matrix that bridges 12 angry men with the procedural reality of our modern courts. We will examine the geometry of influence, the mathematics of justice, and the spiritual mandate to expose the darkness. We begin with Juror 1, the foreman. As a high school football coach, he views the deliberation like a game to be managed. To him, justice is purely a matter of moving the ball and managing the score. He embodies the court system's tendency to prioritize efficiency over the grueling work of examining the chain of reliability. He manages the dark rather than exposing it. Juror 2, the bank clerk, represents the polite bystander. Initially, he relies on the heuristic of convenience, but the friction of dialogue empowers him. His subtle but profound transformation is capped by the geometric epiphany regarding the stabbing angle. He proves that when the common citizen stops deferring to loud authority, they can dismantle the most flawed assumptions. Juror 3 is the enforcer, acting out an unresolved trauma regarding his estranged son. The 22-minute mirror reveals he is litigating his own pain, not the defendant. He represents the psychological darkness that Ephesians 5:11 warns against, clinging to a false reality to satisfy personal bitterness. His final breakdown is the realization that emotion without logic cannot survive in the light of truth. Juror 4 prides himself on flawless logic, representing the prima facie assumption of the court. If the paperwork looks correct, the truth is established. But his arc is his collapse under the weight of human limitations. When sensory truth, the realization about the eyeglasses, is subtracted from his rational framework, it shatters. Objective facts, stripped of human variables, are just sophisticated forms of blindness. Juror 5, the mechanic, brings marginalized truth to the table. Raised in a slum, he initially shrinks from the table's systemic power. However, he uses his lived physical experience to deal a critical blow to the prosecution's logic regarding the switch knife. He is the experiential proof that elite assumptions about how things happen are often entirely wrong. Juror 6 is the foundational anchor, a laborer who admits he is not used to supposing. In the washroom, his Pontius Pilate sidebar underscores the agonizing burden of reasonable doubt. He forces Juror 8 and the audience to accept that perfect certainty is impossible in human justice. Without the protection of the working class, wisdom is silenced by rage. Juror 7 is the true villain. Loud, flashy, and morally bankrupt, he treats the trial as a distraction from a baseball game. The system can withstand a bigot or a projector, but it crumbles under the weight of sheer apathy. If you multiply a righteous outcome by a corrupt motive, the moral value of the system becomes zero. A verdict reached because men are tired is as dangerous as one reached through bigotry. Juror 8, the architect, demands structural integrity. He refuses to accept the blur of the evidence. But he needs Juror 9, the vision, who notices the insignificant sensory details. Together, they form an unbroken loop, rationality fueled by empathy. Without the marginalized observer, the logic of the elite architect equals zero. Together, they prove that truth-seeking requires both math and observation. The cycle concludes with Juror 10's moral rot, neutralized by absolute silence, starving the darkness of oxygen. Juror 11, the watchmaker, understands the sacred gears of democracy, demanding absolute moral accountability. Finally, Juror 12 represents the aesthetics of justice, evaluating truth based on packaging. Until the math zeroes out, the momentum stops, and the truth is forced into the light. This mathematical proof perfectly describes the legal doctrine of harmless error. In cases like UHGI, LLC versus Ben Gill, we see the court substitute efficiency for due process by admitting standardized affidavits without a factual basis. The Pro Se architect shatters this illusion, demanding the exact chain of reliability and the foundation required by Rule 803-6. The ultimate victory is not a dramatic apology. It is the silence of a system exposed. The mandate of Ephesians 5:11 is to expose the deeds of darkness. A system left to its own momentum will inevitably manage the dark to achieve efficiency. To fulfill the mandate, one must act as the architect, demanding the blueprints, refusing the blur, and forcing the machinery of the state to step into the light. Thank you for joining this master analysis of the architecture of truth.